Oh, IGN. Oh, wait, you know what we need to do? We need to do an IGN review. We need to see what IGN have to say for it. Okay, let's try this.
Water to fish around for clues to a mystery. You keep pulling out
Is that loud
weirder and
enough?
more confusing stuff, and you really don't want to go back in again. But what you found
Is that
so
okay?
far makes you extremely curious about what other secrets might be hiding in there. That's the best way I can describe the overall experience of playing Scorn, a first exploring the ruins of a dead civilization. With a mesmerizing biomechanical aesthetic inspired by the likes of H.R. Geiger and Harlan Ellison's
No,
I
Pixel,
Have No
he
Mouth
does.
and I Must Scream, it's far more disturbing and unsettling than it is horrifying, but the vibes it creates can grandeur. The architecture and weird puzzle contraptions exist in a space that's not so much a fusion of flesh and machine, but more like someone blended the two until you can't quite tell if anything you're looking at is alive or artificial. Soaring alien spires mimic the shapes of bone and viscera, while foreboding tunnels give you the distinct impression of being swallowed whole. Since there's no dialogue or text of any kind to explain why you're here or what happened, you're forced to look closely at all of this fascinatingly unpleasant imagery to get some
Why is this at like... Wait, that's a 1060p? It doesn't
kind of
feel
clue
like it.
as to why the world is so messed up and mostly deserted. And for my part, I do think I was
Why
able
does
to
it
piece
look
it together by
so-
the end of my brief but dense 7.5-hour journey into hell.
7.5?
This is a world
Jeez.
where there are ultimately no definite answers, but I liked that it trusted me to draw my own conclusions and gave me enough hints to do so.
You'd think they'd be able to record
Scorn
that
stars
better.
an equally enigmatic
It's
zombie
IGN.
thing who wakes up in the middle of this mess and sets about
By the way, did you know, notice that you played two different characters, one in prologue and the second when you wake in the wasteland? The parasite is your character from the Oh no, I never noticed that. I know I can't remember how we ended up at the wasteland. I don't remember that, but I didn't realize that. No, I
Solving-
did wonder how we ended up there, but I didn't think too much of it.
some moderately challenging puzzles with no stated mission other than to keep moving forward. The otherworldly mist-like contraptions aren't exactly Mensa-level brain teasers, but some of them were tricky enough that I felt pretty satisfied when I finally caught on to their workings. Thus, it's purely curiosity that motivated me to keep going. This nameless
me, but video showed
homunculus,
it,
or
and it
whatever he
explained-
is, presents me with the
explained
same
why track
question as the
controls look so
expanse
old.
around him. Is any of this even worth
So maybe one is from an earlier time, one character's from the earlier time, and one character's later on.
saving?
Or one showing you from inside the facility and one trying to break out, like, person trying to break out and another person trying to break in to try and get rid.
And an unskippable cutscene early on seems to suggest that no, he isn't. So I didn't really develop any sense of self-preservation or hope for salvation. This place and this character probably got what they deserved. I just wanted to see what was beyond the next ribcage door.
What? Seriously though, what are they filming this game on? On what? This is a 1080p video, but the gameplay looks so bad.
And that highlights another issue with Scorn in that it's constantly unforgivingly grim. Better horror games like Amnesia and Resident Evil
I'm going to probably pee off some people. I don't think Amnesia was that great. I think Amnesia was more of a walking simulator. I enjoyed this way more than Amnesia. Both Amnesias. The third one isn't okay, but I enjoyed this more than both Amnesias. Maybe it might be the early version or console. Could be. But I definitely think this is better than Amnesia. I disagree with what he says. That's okay, Azren. Thanks for popping by. I appreciate it. I'll see you later.
games like Amnesia and Resident Evil forgivingly grim. Better horror games like Amnesia and Resident Evil
Okay, don't compare it to Resident Evil, because Resident Evil is a totally different game. Yes, it's horror, and yes, it has puzzles, but it's still... they're very different. I would say Resident Evil is more combat-y as well. This is a different style of game.
First moments of stress and unease with islands of
You can't compare this to Resident Evil.
Then very effectively inspire dread by taking them away or making you leave them behind. Scorn's world simply doesn't feature anything like that. There are parts of it that could perhaps be called darkly beautiful, but once you strap in, you're in for a journey that will never let up trying to shock and unsettle you. This eventually ended up having the opposite effect on me, as I grew somewhat numb to the ceaseless psychological torment. Without anything to fight for, any sense of serenity to look forward to, or anything worth keeping to be robbed of, it loses its impact. Still, I have to applaud the singular, clear vision behind every sight and sound. There's not so much a traditional soundtrack to Scorn as there is a subtle electronic texture that deserves to be experienced on some nice surround sound headphones with good bass.
It's definitely more...
It's also impressive how
definitely more you're listening to the sound of the place. They're like, we don't need no music. We don't need no music in this game, apart from, like, you know, like little bits here and there. I think it's better with the eeriness of the sound of this place, for sure.
Everything you can interact with has moving parts that fit together, whether that's a puzzle the size of an entire tower or even your inventory, which is made up of these weird fleshy artifacts. Each round that goes into one of your weapons has to be hand loaded, and getting more from a replenishment station is another animation all its own. This really served to make me feel grounded in the world. Unfortunately, the combat itself is dreadful, and I don't mean that in a good way. Most enemies have highly accurate ranged attacks, your strafing speed is painfully slow, and the only weapons that do a decent amount of damage have very limited ammo. Some of the hitboxes are ridiculous.
Again, the game isn't just mainly focused on combat. As we said, you can just avoid enemies.
It looks like you should easily be able to shoot through these bars, but you can't. And both healing items and checkpoints.
Same in Resident Evil. Like, most of the time you wouldn't be able to... Okay.
It can be very stingy in some places. Thankfully, combat is only a major part of one of Scorn's 5 chapters, which is the only reason it didn't entirely ruin the experience for me. I don't think any of this was an accident. On the contrary, it seems like combat was meant to be a pain in the ass, to encourage you to avoid it if you can. But
I think so too. I agree with that guy.
I agree that. Either, so I generally resorted...
Bro, this guy literally reviews the game as, I compared to all the other games and I enjoyed it less, so the game is crap. Yeah, pretty much.
But tedious strategies, such as running around a pillar like a cartoon character and getting a hit in whenever I could, or just attempting to run past all the enemies and...
What was it? There was something that said that sometimes... It might be something like... Oh, what was it now? That's like, sometimes doing nothing is the best option. I can't remember what that was from. I swear, I can't remember which game it was, but literally the advice was like, you can do stuff, but sometimes not doing something is the best outcome. Like this, sometimes just avoiding them altogether is the best outcome. You don't have to fight everything that is in front of you. You choose your battles. This game is literally, you choose when you fight. You don't have to fight everything. We're so used to fighting every single thing that appears on screen now. We don't have to.
Praying I wouldn't take too much damage. If you don't want me to fight them, you need to give me better tools for avoiding them.
You walk the other way and wait for them to walk away themselves.
them. Removing most, if not all, of
That's
the
what I
enemies
did.
from the combat-heavy Act 3 would make Scorn a better experience, as it very much works
Wait, what did he just
the
say?
rules for avoiding them. Removing most, if not all, of the enemies from the combat-heavy Act 3 would make Scorn a better experience.
Is his suggestion to get rid of enemies in this game? Is that what I'm getting from this? Because that's what I'm getting from that. Literally cannot stand this guy. Cut a few games on it. I think it might be one of the Life is Strange, where it's like, sometimes you don't have to do anything. His literal suggestion is, get rid of enemies. Then what's the fun in that?
As it very much works against the...
Okay, let's put in our vets. What do we think is going to be his review? I don't know. How do they rate them? Is it up to 10? I think he's going to say a 6. He's just going to go slightly over 5, because it's not going to be the worst game he's played. But I don't think it's going to be any higher than 7. 4. Ooh. Then he'd complain it's a walking simulator. That is true. He would. He would complain it's a walking simulator.
Aspects I liked a lot better. There was probably no need to include combat at all, and especially not like this.
But then it wouldn't feel like... You wouldn't feel any sense of danger in this game if there was nothing in there. You know, you wouldn't feel like, okay, I've got to get my character out. Verdict? What's he gonna give it?
If Scorn were much longer than it is, I think it would have overstayed its welcome. But the fact that it's such a bite-sized sprint through the grisly and surreal made it memorable and satisfying. The frustrating combat mercifully only haunts a fraction of the playtime, but the superb, darkly mystifying art direction and ambient soundtrack suffuse the whole thing like rancid blood, bringing a creaky corpse back to life. It's an uneasy, sometimes disorienting experience from end to end, yet it's one I don't regret plunging into.
A 7? Okay. Okay. I didn't think he was going to go for 7. He reviewed this on a PC, and that's the best quality footage he got. Well done, dude. This is IGN. You'd think they'd have high quality computers.
For more, check out our reviews of Metal Hellsinger.
He complained for 10 minutes and goes for
everything else,
7
stick with
to
IGN.
10. Yeah, I don't go by their reviews at all. I do not go by their reviews. Fun fact, many of the enemy encounters can be skipped by simply backing away. The small and medium-sized enemies will tend to crawl into holes if left alone. Yep. Where's the fun in that? It's not a shooter. You get to bypass the dog combat like the Vez should have done. No. Wow. This guy gave us a horrible review. The game was fantastic. This would be great. Oh, man. Imagine this as a VR game. I forget that you can't see the thing because my head's in the way. This game doesn't give you any hope or sense or calm or peace. It doesn't give you anything to fight for, and the world feels like it can't be saved. Scorn, the feeling or belief that someone or something is worthless.